Heart disease has been the #1 cause of death in the United States for over 100 years straight. 100 years. Not cancer, not accidents, not COVID. Heart disease, every single year since 1921. In 2024, it killed 683,037 Americans. That is one person dying from cardiovascular disease every 34 seconds. And the terrifying part, nearly half of all Americans over 60 are already living with some form of it right now. Many of them have no idea. You go to your cardiologist, you get your checkup, your doctor looks at your cholesterol, checks your blood pressure, tells you to eat better and exercise more, and that's it. What you never hear about are the 8 things that clinical science has confirmed can actively protect and support your arteries, things used for centuries by traditional medicine and now backed by peer-reviewed trials, that your cardiologist almost never mentions. Not because they don't know, because there's no prescription to write, and the #1 entry on this list, a randomized clinical trial followed 420 heart patients for 2 years. The group that used it had a 43% relative reduction in major adverse cardiovascular events, heart attacks, hospitalizations, cardiovascular deaths, compared to the placebo group, 43%. You can probably buy it at your pharmacy right now for $20 a month. Imagine your cardiologist looking at your numbers at your next checkup, pausing and saying, "Whatever you have been doing, keep doing it. Your arteries look better than they did a year ago." That is not an impossible outcome. It is the kind of result that happens when your body gets what it has been missing. By the end of this video, you will understand 8 things your cardiologist rarely brings up, and exactly how to use each one. Every single claim comes from peer-reviewed clinical research. No speculation, no marketing, just the science. Let me start with why your arteries get harder, narrower, and more dangerous after 60. Because once you understand this, everything else makes sense. Your arteries are not rigid pipes. They are living, flexible tubes lined with a thin layer of cells called the endothelium. When this lining is healthy, it produces a gas called nitric oxide, the compound that keeps your arteries relaxed and wide open, keeps blood flowing smoothly, and prevents the buildup of plaque on the artery walls. After 60, nitric oxide production drops significantly. The artery walls stiffen. Blood pressure climbs because your heart has to work harder to push blood through narrower, less flexible channels. Cholesterol particles, especially oxidized LDL, begin sticking to the damaged artery walls, triggering inflammation. Plaque forms. It builds. You can't see it. You can't feel it. But it is there, growing silently, year after year. Your cardiologist will tell you to lower your cholesterol with medication, control your blood pressure, and reduce your stress. Those things matter, but they are treating numbers on a lab report. They are not rebuilding the endothelium. They are not restoring nitric oxide production. They are not targeting the oxidative stress and chronic inflammation that drive the damage in the first place. Certain natural compounds do exactly that. Not through magic, through basic vascular biology confirmed in clinical studies. Here are the 8 things most cardiologists never mention. Secret #1, CoQ10, and why taking a statin without it may be working against you. Coenzyme Q10, CoQ10, is a compound your body produces naturally. Every single cell in your body uses it to generate energy, and your heart, which never stops beating for your entire life, has the highest concentration of CoQ10 of any organ in your body. After 60, your natural CoQ10 production drops significantly. And here is the part your cardiologist almost never mentions. Statins, the cholesterol-lowering medications taken by an estimated 35 million Americans, work by blocking an enzyme called HMG-CoA reductase. That enzyme is responsible for producing cholesterol. It is also responsible for producing CoQ10. When you take a statin, you block both. Your cholesterol goes down, and so does the CoQ10 your heart muscle needs to function. Many of the muscle aches and fatigue that people blame on aging while taking statins are documented side effects of CoQ10 depletion. Now here is the clinical evidence for what happens when you restore it. The Q-SYMBIO trial. 420 patients with moderate to severe heart failure. A 2-year randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study. Half received CoQ10 at 100 mg 3 times daily. Half received placebo. At the 2-year mark, the CoQ10 group had 15% major adverse cardiovascular events. The placebo group had 26%. That is a 43% relative reduction. Fewer heart attacks, fewer hospitalizations, fewer cardiovascular deaths. A separate landmark Swedish trial followed 443 elderly people for 4 years on combined selenium and CoQ10 supplementation. Cardiovascular mortality was significantly reduced in the supplemented group, and when researchers checked again 12 years later, the benefit was still there. 12 years after a 4-year supplementation period. The correct form matters. CoQ10 comes in 2 forms, ubiquinone and ubiquinol. After 40, your body has increasing difficulty converting ubiquinone into the active form it can use. Choose ubiquinol. The dose is 100 to 200 mg of ubiquinol daily, taken with a meal that contains fat. CoQ10 is fat-soluble. Without fat, absorption drops sharply. If you are on a statin and nobody has mentioned CoQ10 to you, now you know why that conversation never happened. Secret number 2, nattokinesis, the Japanese enzyme your cardiologist has never heard of. Natto is a traditional Japanese food made from fermented soybeans. It has been eaten in Japan for over 1,000 years. It is sticky, pungent, and most Westerners cannot stand the taste. But in the early 1980s, a Japanese researcher named Dr. Hiroyuki Sumi discovered something extraordinary about natto. The enzyme produced during its fermentation, nattokinase, directly dissolves fibrin. Fibrin is the sticky protein that holds blood clots together, the same protein that forms the scaffolding around arterial plaque. Most clot-dissolving drugs used in hospitals have to be injected. They are powerful, fast-acting, and carry significant bleeding risks. Nattokinase is an oral enzyme that at the right dose has been shown to have fibrinolytic activity in human clinical studies, breaking down fibrin gradually from inside the cardiovascular system. Here is the clinical evidence. A study published in Frontiers in Cardiovascular Medicine enrolled 1,062 participants and studied the effects of nattokinase on atherosclerosis and cholesterol over 12 months. The results: a significant reduction in carotid artery intima media thickness, the thickness of the artery wall, which is a direct measure of atherosclerosis progression. Plaque size decreased. Improvement rates ranged from 66.5 to 95.4% in the treated group. A meta-analysis of 6 randomized controlled trials covering 546 participants confirmed that nattokinase significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic blood pressure compared to placebo. There is one critical detail about dosing. The same Frontiers study found that a dose of 3,600 FU per day, which is what most commercially available nattokinase products contain, was completely ineffective. The effective dose was 10,800 FU per day. Most people buying nattokinase are buying the wrong dose. The label says nattokinase, but the dose is a third of what the clinical evidence requires. Check the label. You need 10,800 FU per day, split into 2 to 3 doses. One serious caution: nattokinase has genuine blood-thinning effects. If you are on anticoagulants, aspirin therapy, or any blood-thinning medication, do not take nattokinase without first speaking to your doctor. The combination can increase bleeding risk significantly. Secret number 3. The fruit that reversed artery plaque in patients who were already 90% blocked. I want to read you one sentence from a clinical study published in the journal Clinical Nutrition. Quote, "Pomegranate juice consumption resulted in a significant intima media thickness reduction by up to 30% after 1 year. Think about what that means. The thickness of the carotid artery wall, the measure doctors use to track plaque buildup, did not stay the same, did not slow its growth. It reversed. It shrank by 30%. The control group in the same study, The patients who received no pomegranate juice saw their artery wall thickness increase by 9% over the same year. The patients in this trial were not healthy people trying to prevent disease. They were patients aged 65 to 75 with severe carotid artery stenosis, blockages ranging from 70 to 90%. Their arteries were so narrowed that only 10 to 30% of the original channel remained open for blood flow. And in those patients, 50 milliliters of pomegranate juice, less than 2 ounces taken daily for a year, reversed measurable artery damage. The 5 patients who continued for 3 years showed a 35% reduction in artery wall thickness. Systolic blood pressure dropped 21%. LDL oxidation, the process that makes cholesterol truly dangerous, dropped by 90%. The mechanism: pomegranates contain punicalagins, one of the most potent antioxidants found in any food. They prevent LDL cholesterol from oxidizing, and oxidized LDL is the specific form that triggers the inflammatory response that builds plaque. Remove the oxidation, and you remove the trigger. The dose used in the trial was 50 milliliters, about 1.7 ounces, of pure pomegranate juice daily, not pomegranate-flavored juice drinks, not pomegranate extract capsules with filler, pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar. Your cardiologist almost certainly knows this study exists. It was published in 2004 and has been cited hundreds of times. It is rarely mentioned in a clinical setting because there is no prescription to write and no pharmaceutical company funding the recommendation. Secret number 4. Garlic lowers blood pressure by 8 points, and almost nobody is using it correctly. Garlic has been used as medicine for over 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptian papyrus documents list it as a treatment for cardiovascular conditions. This is one of the oldest documented medical uses of any food on Earth, and modern clinical research has confirmed something specific and measurable. A 2025 meta-analysis that pooled data from 12 controlled trials and 738 patients found that garlic extracts produced a mean reduction in systolic blood pressure of 8.12 millimeters of mercury and diastolic blood pressure of 4.26 millimeters of mercury, compared to placebo. Both results were highly statistically significant. To put that in context, a reduction of 5 millimeters of mercury in systolic blood pressure is associated with a 14% lower risk of stroke and a 9% lower risk of coronary heart disease in population studies. 8 millimeters is clinically meaningful. The mechanism is allicin, the compound produced when you crush or chop a garlic clove. Allicin triggers the release of nitric oxide in the endothelium, relaxing blood vessel walls and reducing peripheral resistance. It also inhibits an enzyme called ACE, the same enzyme targeted by a class of blood pressure medications called ACE inhibitors. Here is how most people use garlic wrong. They cook it immediately. The moment allicin forms, heat destroys it within minutes. If you cook garlic without letting it sit, you get flavor but very little of the therapeutic compound. The correct method: crush or finely chop a clove of garlic. Let it sit at room temperature for 10 minutes. The enzyme reaction that produces allicin needs that time to complete. Then add it to your food, or eat it directly. The allicin survives mild heat after the reaction has completed. For a standardized supplement dose, aged garlic extract at 600 to 900 milligrams daily has been consistently effective across multiple trials. One caution: garlic has mild antiplatelet and anticoagulant properties. If you take blood thinners or aspirin regularly, speak to your doctor before adding high-dose garlic supplementation. Secret number 5. Omega-3 fatty acids. You are almost certainly taking too little to matter. Fish oil is probably the most popular supplement in the world. Billions of capsules sold every year, and the vast majority of the people buying them are taking doses so small they have almost no measurable effect on cardiovascular risk. Here is the reality. Elevated triglycerides, a blood fat your cardiologist measures every year, are a major but underappreciated cardiovascular risk factor. Omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, are the most effective natural compound for lowering them. The clinical evidence shows that 3 to 4 grams daily of combined EPA and DHA reduces triglycerides by 14 to 25%. The REDUCITE trial, a randomized, double-blind study with 8,179 high-risk patients, found that high-dose purified EPA reduced the primary cardiovascular endpoint by 25% compared to placebo over a median follow-up of nearly 5 years, 25% relative reduction, in people who were already on statins. And here is the problem. A standard fish oil capsule contains approximately 300 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA. To reach the clinical threshold of 2 to 3 grams, you would need to take 7 to 10 capsules daily. Most people take 1 or 2 and feel they have done something meaningful. They have not. The correct approach: choose a high-concentration fish oil or triglyceride form fish oil. Look for RTG on the label, which is the re-esterified triglyceride form and the most bioavailable. Find a product where 2 to 3 capsules deliver at least 2 grams of combined EPA and DHA. Take it with your largest meal. Always take fish oil with food. Absorption without fat is minimal. One caution: at doses above 3 grams daily, omega-3 fatty acids can increase bleeding risk. If you are on blood thinners, talk to your doctor before increasing your dose significantly. Secret number 6. Your arteries are stiffening partly because you are running low on magnesium. We have talked about magnesium in the context of sleep, but magnesium deficiency is equally, if not more, relevant to your cardiovascular system. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzymatic processes in the human body. For your arteries specifically, it does 3 critical things. It helps regulate blood pressure by controlling how much calcium enters smooth muscle cells in the artery walls. When magnesium is low, calcium takes over, the muscles contract, the arteries narrow, blood pressure rises. It supports endothelial function, the health of that thin lining inside your arteries that produces nitric oxide, and it helps prevent arterial calcification, the process by which calcium deposits harden the artery walls, reducing their flexibility. Studies consistently show that low magnesium levels in older adults are associated with increased arterial stiffness, higher blood pressure, and elevated cardiovascular event risk. Meta-analyses confirm that magnesium supplementation produces measurable reductions in blood pressure. Most adults over 60 are deficient, not because they are doing anything wrong, because magnesium absorption declines with age, dietary intake tends to drop, and many common medications, diuretics, proton pump inhibitors, certain blood pressure drugs, deplete magnesium further. The dose is 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium glycinate daily. Glycinate is the form with the best bioavailability and the gentlest effect on the stomach. Magnesium oxide, the form in most cheap supplements, is poorly absorbed. Start low and increase gradually. One caution: if you have kidney disease, do not supplement magnesium without speaking to your doctor. The kidneys are responsible for clearing excess magnesium, and impaired kidneys cannot do this safely. Secret number 7. The 2 things that rebuild your nitric oxide production, and why most people have never heard of either. Nitric oxide is the compound your arteries need most. It relaxes blood vessel walls. It keeps blood flowing smoothly. It prevents the inflammatory cascade that leads to plaque formation, and its production collapses after 60. Your cardiologist knows this. The first-line medications for high blood pressure, ACE inhibitors, calcium channel blockers, nitrates, all work in different ways to compensate for falling nitric oxide levels. What almost never gets mentioned is that there are 2 completely natural compounds that directly restore your body's ability to produce it. The first is L-citrulline. L-citrulline is an amino acid found in high concentrations in watermelon. When you consume it, your kidneys convert it into L-arginine, the direct precursor to nitric oxide. The reason you use L-citrulline rather than L-arginine directly is that arginine is broken down heavily in the gut before it reaches the bloodstream. Citrulline bypasses this. A clinical study found that 5.6 grams of L-citrulline daily significantly reduced arterial stiffness and lowered blood pressure in adults with hypertension. Multiple other trials have confirmed its blood pressure and vascular effects. L-citrulline powder is widely available for about $20 for a large bag that lasts months. Mix it into water or juice. It has a mild, neutral taste. The second is concentrated beet juice. Dietary nitrates, found in extremely high concentrations in beetroot, are converted by bacteria on the tongue into nitric oxide via a completely different pathway. Multiple clinical trials have confirmed that 70 milliliters of concentrated beet juice, delivering approximately 6 to 9 millimoles of dietary nitrate, reduces systolic blood pressure by 4 to 5 millimeters of mercury within hours of consumption. Consistent daily use maintains this effect. Think of it this way: L-citrulline restores the machinery that builds nitric oxide from the inside. Beet juice delivers the raw material from the outside. Together, they target the same biological problem from two different directions. One caution for both: if you are on nitrate medications for heart conditions, such as nitroglycerin, speak to your doctor before using either of these, as combining them can cause excessive blood pressure drops. Secret number 8. Chronic inflammation is the engine driving your artery damage, and this spice is one of the most studied natural anti-inflammatories on the planet. Atherosclerosis is not simply a cholesterol problem, it is an inflammatory disease. Plaque does not just accumulate in arteries because there is too much cholesterol. It accumulates because chronic inflammation damages the endothelium, and damaged endothelium becomes a magnet for cholesterol particles. Reduce the inflammation, and you reduce the damage. Your cardiologist measures CRP, C-reactive protein, as a marker of cardiovascular inflammation. Many people with normal cholesterol still have elevated CRP and still have high cardiovascular risk. This is the piece of the puzzle most standard treatment plans ignore completely. Curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is one of the most extensively studied natural anti-inflammatory compounds in existence. Over 100 randomized controlled trials have investigated its effects. Multiple meta-analyses confirm that curcumin significantly reduces CRP, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha, three of the most important inflammatory markers directly linked to cardiovascular risk and plaque progression. It also reduces LDL oxidation, the specific step that turns cholesterol into the dangerous form that builds plaque. But here is the problem that most people don't know about. Curcumin is almost completely insoluble in water and poorly absorbed through the gut. Take standard turmeric powder, and most of it passes through your digestive system without entering your bloodstream at all. There is one compound that solves this: piperine, the active compound in black pepper. A landmark study found that combining curcumin with just 20 milligrams of piperine increased curcumin's bioavailability by 2,000%. 2,000%, which is why the image of turmeric in warm milk, golden milk, has been part of South Asian traditional medicine for centuries. Black pepper was always part of the recipe. The traditional practitioners did not know the biochemistry, but they knew it worked better together. The dose is 500 to 1,000 milligrams of curcumin combined with at least 5 to 10 milligrams of piperine, taken twice daily with food. Look for products that specifically list piperine or bioperine on the label. One caution: curcumin at high doses can interact with blood-thinning medications and may affect iron absorption. If you are on anticoagulants or are iron deficient, check with your doctor first. Here is where you start. You do not need all 8 at once. Nobody should make 8 changes simultaneously. You will not know what is working, and the regimen becomes unsustainable. Start with 3 things this month. CoQ10, 100 to 200 milligrams of ubiquinol daily, with a meal. If you are on a statin, this is the most important thing on this entire list. Your heart muscle needs it. Pomegranate juice, 50 milliliters of pure juice, no added sugar, every morning. That is less than 2 ounces. You can measure it in a shot glass. Magnesium glycinate, 200 to 400 milligrams elemental, in the evening. In month 2, add garlic, 4 cloves crushed and rested for 10 minutes, added to your meals daily, or 600 to 900 milligrams of aged garlic extract. In month 3, add L-citrulline at 5.6 grams in the morning, and curcumine with piperine twice daily with food. And if your triglycerides are elevated, talk to your cardiologist about high-concentration omega-3 at therapeutic doses, 2 to 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily. Take a photo of your most recent blood panel. Track your CRP, your triglycerides, your blood pressure at home. Put a note in your calendar for 90 days. Then compare. The numbers do not lie, and they will tell you whether your arteries are getting better or worse. For over a century, heart disease has been the leading cause of death in this country, and for much of that century, the conversation has been dominated by one approach: pharmaceutical management of individual risk factors. Cholesterol pills, blood pressure pills, blood thinners, those things have their place, but they do not rebuild the endothelium, they do not restore nitric oxide, they do not stop the oxidation that triggers plaque formation in the first place. The 8 things in this video do.